Down with bullies. The truth is like a lion. When you set it free, you do not need to defend it. It will defend itself. There will always be people who hate you. That can be taken in either a comforting way or it can horrify you. Whichever reaction, it is entirely up to you. No one else can horrify you unless you give them permission. If you understand that people will always hate you, no matter what you do, you realize that it's just not up to you to make them feel any sort of way about you. There's nothing you can do to make someone else love you. You cannot earn someone's love. Whether or not someone else has the ability to love is not something you can alter, nor is it a reflection on you. I've counseled people who lament to me that they walk on eggshells around their spouse, doing everything they can to make their spouse pleased with them, and nothing works. The issue isn't the person who is attempting to behave in a way which has its root in genuine love. No. The issue is that oftentimes other people simply cannot love. The issue is that someone fell in love with someone else, and one or both parties mistook good feelings for genuine love. And when the good feelings fade, you're left with who that person truly is and how they behave when times get tough. A not so fun fact: people tend to behave in a way that is almost 100% in favor of something they emotionally want, whether it's bullying someone else or shirking a chore. We're living in an entitled society where it's not exactly taught that we ought to behave in the most righteous way in order to make the world a better place. The core of making the world a better place is finding love through humility. Your best tools to combat criticism and insults are humility and honesty. When you stand on honesty, you have far less of fear of your behavior and intentions being twisted by others. People like to support those who are honest and not self-serving, so you will likely have more logical people to back you up. This happened to me when I said a fact that someone didn't like because it was mean. I had many supporters, and these other people had many supporters. When they attacked me personally, calling into question my integrity, I didn't flinch, and everything I said was done so publicly, so it would be easy for others to defend me. When they hurled insults at me, I didn't hurl any back. I simply said, those who are logical will agree with and support me. Those who function relying on emotional whims will support you. In the end, I am not seeking approval from overly emotional people, nor do I want it. I want the support of logical, reasonable people. That is why having everything documented and not firing back with insults is so important in defending yourself. You must be an honest person, and if you are honest, you will be honest with yourself about the worth of the other person who is antagonizing you, and you will not have the desire to further the conflict or hurt them. No one ever wants to humble themselves. Many of us are told constantly that we're awesome, and that we ought to only have good things said about us, and that other people who think poorly of us or believe things differently than us are simply morons. Do you know one of the reasons why people insulting me doesn't upset me? Because I know they might just be right about me. Perhaps I did act poorly for that short exposure someone had to me, and I rightfully gave them a certain perception. I certainly try to do the best I can, but I know I'm not perfect. They have the right to not like me, as I have the right to not favor them. And even if they are being illogical, maybe they too are having a bad day where they behave more poorly than usual and give me a false perception of them. I try to stay humble enough to remember that other people might just be right about me. Maybe I'm not as smart as other people might tell me. Maybe I'm not as funny. This is good insight. But it doesn't hurt my confidence because at the very core of every insult hurled my way, I know that I'm doing the best I can, and that I'm not entitled to be loved by anyone else. What's more, I try to behave in a way that displays the human worth of others. So I know that if I've held back from not only attacking others, but defending myself, and they still have a problem with me, then there's nothing I could do to sway them, and I still stand justified. One thing people ought to remember is that people who need love the most ask for it in the most unloving ways. People who are nasty and attack others, who lack confidence, hence why they feel the need to attack others, they're suffering from low self-worth, haven't been shown genuine love. It all comes back down to people generally not having the ability to love. Because in order to love, you must be humble. And most people are not humble. Even the holiest people will fight a daily battle to stay humble. No, when people are shown genuine love, it tends to change them. Yes, you have those people who have the hardened outer shell, who behave as if they are the most important person in the world. But those people actually more likely function that way as a defense mechanism, and they don't even realize. They don't feel loved, so they need to convince others that they are lovable. They are their own advocates because they had no one else to advocate for them. They need to prove they are worthy. Well, that's one explanation. You do truly have people with personality disorders, such as sociopaths or narcissists. Then there are those people who are told their whole lives that they are awesome, very worthy of love, and defended nonstop. But they also, likely, haven't felt a prolonged experience of someone genuinely loving them. So their self-concept of their worth is still distorted. The desire to attack others, insulting them, putting them down, gossiping about them, is one fueled by self-preservation, namely, trying to prove that the person you are is worthy of affirmation, and doing so by making others seem less worthy in comparison. Now, there is a stark difference between attacking someone personally and attacking concepts and ideals. Great minds discuss ideas. Small minds discuss people. Something people generally ought to learn is how to separate people from perceptions and even sometimes their own behavior. I'll give you an example. When I made a recent video about how I was treated poorly by a salon, outlining what happened to me, I made a point of making sure I didn't let any comments through where the manager or owner of the salon were personally attacked, even though these people had treated me poorly. I addressed the ideals, or lack thereof. I didn't want to send anyone after them personally, but simply speak from where I was coming from, acknowledging that I know nothing about these women outside of a few instances of poor behavior in a few days' time. I can separate them from their behavior to discuss concepts. I do not have contempt for them. Maybe that stems from not knowing enough about them, but either way, even if these people turned out to be god-awful human beings, I too have done things I'm not proud of, that I'd hate to be branded for all the rest of time. The best any of us can do is our best. Sometimes our best isn't even a little bit good. Sometimes the best we can offer when greeting someone is a nod. Other times we can greet people with an enthusiastic smile. What matters is behaving in a way that shows others their value as human beings. And part of that is forgiving people when their behavior is less than lovable and humble, because we need to be lovable and humble. Be the change, right? Especially since people who need love the most ask for it in the most unloving ways. But let's dive a little bit deeper, since our topic is responding to others when they treat us negatively. I want you to ask yourself the honest question: how often does someone else's behavior affect how I feel? Do you encounter someone who is less than excited to see you and immediately it ruins your day? Or does someone's stink eye roll right off you, like water off a duck's back? If you want to be less affected by criticism, then you need to be honest with yourself about how deeply other people's emotional reactions affect your emotional reactions. We have all been bullied, right? We have all had people try to emotionally manipulate us. I recently encountered that with some strangers, and when I didn't react defensively as they assumed I would, it shocked them. People aren't used to other people who possess strong emotional stability. And if I can be real for a second, it actually brings me great satisfaction to shock and maybe just a little bit annoy people with my not reacting emotionally or letting them control my mood. Mean girls, sociopaths, narcissists will target people who they can either very easily emotionally control, or people like me, who they have to work harder on because it threatens their own self-concept of their own worth. It threatens them when someone else isn't affected by them, and they feel powerless. So they try harder. Many months ago, When I suffered from a PTSD episode after abuse sort of came to the surface, I was preyed upon by a sociopath, or psychopath, whichever. I was easy to sway and control, and she alienated me from other people, and quite honestly, controlled me greatly, under the guise that she was my truest friend. When I broke free and saw what happened, I became too strong for her to control, so she tried even harder. I cut her out of my life and moved on, so she no longer had control over me through personal communication. This is unacceptable to abusers. So she tried many other various tactics, including creating fake accounts to harass me. When I told someone else of the abuse and said, "I'm at peace and I'm happy, I've moved on and I want the same for her," she exploded at the idea that I was happy and at peace. So she hosted a thread in a secret group of people bashing me. She gathered together all sorts of people who hated me for tons of various reasons, including ones they simply made up. They all assumed everything was going to get back to me, and several good, honorable people stood up for me and sent me screenshots. I didn't read them. The following day, someone asked me how I was doing after the previous night where people posted an endless amount of vitriol against me. I said I had been doing fantastically, and that I knew why the person did what she did, hosting a thread of people to bash me, because she could not handle that I said I was at peace and happy. So she did what she could to try to fix that. This sociopath found out that I wasn't affected by the hate thread, and I didn't read it and had actually had a great following day. She went on to lash out, insisting that I wasn't allowed to be happy, and that if I was, I clearly had to be mentally ill. This person lost control over my emotional state and went so far as to compile into a Google Doc a bunch of secrets I had actually told her in confidence when she pretended to be my friend, and apparently created several fake screenshots of me contacting people saying things I never said. And she lost count of how many people she shared those with. This was evil committed against me. And if it had been done to me last year while enduring a PTSD episode due to past abuse, and I had had more abuse like this piled on, this person knows I'd have been suicidal. I think they were trying to have the ultimate control and maybe try to get me to kill myself. And here, people were worried about a few Karens bad-mouthing me and how that would affect me. I've been through worse. If you notice, I have not named this person. I refuse to, even after all that, because I do have the ardent hope that they will change and stop doing this to people and find remorse. Although I know people with personality disorders rarely find remorse for their actions, only justification. I forgive this person. I even told them in code in one of my videos that I forgave them. I told them in another one that I love them, and I wasn't going to hurt them or retaliate against them, even after all they'd done. I knew they were watching me, and they would be the only person to know what I was saying in the moments. A friend of mine asked me how in the world I managed to not break down when this person was terrorizing me. I said that I had to owe it to the fact that I've grown so much in a few short months. One of the worst things that could have happened to me did, and I'm still here. I knew the best defense I was going to have in a situation like this was simply becoming tougher. Learning to take the blows and the hits without flinching or letting it affect me. Letting that awful person affect my children's lives by affecting me. That meant growing in confidence. But all that is so much easier said than done, right? How in the world is someone supposed to deal with someone terrorizing them, telling people their secrets and lying about them, and raising a small army of cronies to try to use to harm them, such as pretending to be kind, only to be a mole on their Facebook profile to report back to the sociopath ringleader? I had to become tough quickly, and it was because I learned very, very quickly that I was powerless. I was powerless to use truth and logic and love against this sort of evil behavior. It didn't matter how much I heaped truth upon something. When someone is dedicated to hating someone else, there is not enough truth or logic in the world that you can use to sway them. To those who believe, no explanation is necessary. To those who do not, no explanation is possible. It was in my acknowledging my powerlessness that I found my power. Do you have any idea how powerful you become when people who seek to harm you realize they can't? I found my confidence when I found my humility, when I humbly acknowledge that there's nothing I can do to breathe truth and defense of myself to others, and that's okay. When I realized others would hate me to the point of likely fantasizing, throwing acid on me, and it didn't matter how good I was to them. And that's okay. When I let go of the anger that I was owed being treated better because of the kind of person I truly am. When I let go of the anger that by the simple virtue of my being a human being, I'm worthy of not being treated horribly. It is good to do good to others. It is good when people recognize your love and devotion and loyalty and natural rights. But when they don't, you can't control that. And it's more a commentary on them than it is on you. When you let them make you angry, you are allowing them to control you. The only thing that's going to kill that anger is humility. Does that mean telling yourself you aren't worthy? No. But it means acknowledging your powerlessness in situations and the natural worth of others, and how they are not less important than you, even if they act evilly. Confidence comes when you walk in the freedom from others controlling how you feel about yourself. I am not righteous and blameless enough to administer the justice other people deserve. And the flip side of that is that no one else is righteous or blameless enough to punish me for anything they might see fit to. The very best any one person can do is focus on our own ability to love others. To do that, we grow in our own humility, and that is what is going to change others around us. Stop feeling owed love and admiration, except, of course, from your spouse. That's another video. Stop feeling validated and personally attacking others rather than defending innocent people. And yes, there's a difference. When you attack ideas and concepts. When you defend human dignity. So what ought you to do when someone else insults you, gossips about you, or tells lies about you? Firstly, recognize where they are coming from. Are they speaking from a place of desperation for validation? So, someone said something hurtful about you, or did something to hurt you. Why do you think they behaved in such a way? Oh, they're just a moron. Okay, but you do realize that there are likely deeper motivations. Is someone lashing out because they are in pain? If so, why should that cause you pain? Why should their lashing out of their own personal emotional desperation hurt you? Logically, it shouldn't. Look at this person and try to see them for who they truly are. Or are they speaking from a place of truth? Here's the thing. Oftentimes the truth hurts, and people don't want to face it. Face it. It isn't until you face something that you might fear that you can truly size it up and see how much it controls you. If you are the problem, perhaps some self-examination. If people continuously tell you that you are self-centered, you might just be self-centered. If people oftentimes insult you by saying that you are overly emotional and sensitive, maybe you are. And you will never be free to grow in humility and love if you are controlled by flaws which you ignore and refuse to work towards fixing. You will forever be deeply wounded by others until you work towards your own sense of authentic humility. So, when someone wounds you, you look at why they might be behaving in that way. They might be emotionally unstable and lashing out, or you might not be that great a person and they just tell you so. Whatever the reason, it will be logic and truth which set you free. There's also what to do when family members and friends turn out to be toxic. Now, this is a huge topic. I actually made 2 other videos to cover it. I'll link the first one of those at the end of this video. But since this video is about enduring negativity, I'll simply say if you have a toxic person in your life who is criticizing you nonstop, walk away. Like I said, you cannot change anyone else. You cannot earn your worth to others, especially a toxic person. When someone goes toe-to-toe with you, stand on the truth. Don't fight below the belt, and act as righteously as possible so you will stand justified. Look at the motivation for their behavior and grow in your own authentic confidence to let insults roll right off you. Bullies cannot love, and it is naive to believe you can reason logically with them, especially when they usually only comprehend their own emotional state. You cannot change others. You can only control your own reactions to them, and you need to find peace in that. I'm Regina Lux with Veritas on the Rocks. Logic to inspire. Now, ignite the truth and boldly go.